There's little argument that the rose is the world's favorite flower.
It's probably grown in every country where the climate has a say in things, which is pretty much everywhere except Antarctica.
Roses certainly have a long and splendid history, and those roots go back far and deep. Fossils from Colorado tell us the rose could be a staggering 35 million years old, or even older.
Today, there are well over 30,000 varieties of rose worldwide.
Cultivation of roses was well underway in China, even by 500 BC. And China today still has a huge influence on the modern flower.
Hello again from the Royal Horticultural Society's garden at Wesley in Surrey.
200 years ago, Chinese roses were brought to the West and revolutionized the appearance of Western roses, heralding the creation of tens of thousands of new varieties.
In the UK, the most commonly grown are the hybrid teas.
There are also floribundas, miniatures, and patio roses. There are climbers, ramblers, modern shrub roses, old-fashioned shrub roses. The list goes on and on. Roses can flower through the season, but it's in midsummer that British roses are at their absolute best.
60% of genus Rosa can be found in China, and indeed roses can be found in every Chinese province. But Yunnan, with its perfect climate, and in my view, it's the most beautiful province, has the most.
Today's roses are largely Chinese and European hybrids, but it doesn't stop there. China's breeders are constantly on the lookout for plants that could lead to new crosses and fabulous new blooms.
Rose breeding in China is an endless journey. Propagation is time-consuming and exacting work. As potential new varieties grow, their climate tolerance and disease resistance are carefully monitored.
For the genus Rosa, it's not just looks that count.
Research and testing help identify plants that will do well globally. Once the blooms have proved themselves in China, they are tried out in all four corners of the world.
Here, a famous nursery in the south of France is testing new roses in Mediterranean conditions.
Although we tend to think of rose as being so English, in fact, France was the birthplace of modern varieties.
At the end of the 18th century, when the French first saw Chinese roses, the love affair blossomed. From Empress Josephine, first wife of Napoleon, to ordinary people, everyone wanted these oriental blooms, leading to the most complicated breeding program in plant history. Over the next 50 minutes, we'll be seeing how one young grower, Jiang Zhangzhi, is using the latest breeding and marketing techniques to spread the word.
How the flowering period of roses is being extended and why China continues to hold floral center stage.
Here at the Bowes-Lyon Rose Garden at Wisley, so much of the genetic material in these stunning blooms actually originates in China. We'll also discover how, at the genetic level, roses are in fact amazingly close to strawberries, and how hybridization of roses can even help them survive the glacial temperatures of a Xinjiang winter.
Which is almost as cold as English summers. Enjoy signature flowers of China.
This is the Quarry Hill Botanical Garden. Its rose garden features a Chinese name, that of Zhang Endian, nicknamed Lady Chinese Rose, for the efforts she made in the 1950s to demonstrate to the world the immense influence of Chinese roses on world horticulture. William A. McNamara, Executive Director of the Quarry Hill Botanical Garden, is a big fan of Chinese roses.
Well, what's amazing is this was made several hundred years ago in China. The main influence on modern roses is Chinese roses.
He's especially interested in the Chinese roses in the center of the garden. "200 years ago, these ordinary flowers traveled to Europe. revolutionizing the appearance of Western roses and giving birth to tens of thousands of beautiful varieties. Ever since, Chinese roses have been an integral part of world culture. This is the story of the Chinese roses, a story of the fusion between East and West. Their fragrance is our favorite aroma, and their 4 seasons are the time we live in. This is the Rose Festival in Grasse, France. Every May, this place comes alive with the scent of roses. Fujie studied in France for many years. She's a professional perfumer, trained at the Grasse Institute of Perfumery. She comes to the festival with her students. Usually it's the scent of roses that interests her. But this trip is a little different. How these flowers appeal to the eye is just as important.
繁忙生活当中，你或者说能表达热烈的一种爱意的，其实花它都可以帮你去表达出来。
Situated in the southeast of France, Grasse, a small town less than 20 kilometers away from Cannes, is rich in roses. Roses are picked at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. After that, they're sent to a dry and cool shed for grading and selection. Turning the petals over helps them to retain their aroma. This is the first stage of the traditional method of extracting scent for perfume. Grasse is regarded as the world's perfume capital, a place of pilgrimage for students of perfumery from all over the world. But walking around the streets and attending the flower shows here, one thing is very obvious. The most eye-catching flowers are not the ones used for perfume extraction.
大部分人送礼的这些花，表达心意的花店里的花，更偏月季。通常月季来说，可能它的香气的力度、释放性、丰富性相对来说就没有那么明显，而月季更强的是在于它的观赏性。
Typically, roses only bloom once a year. They rarely bloom for a second time in a single year. They have curly yet delicate petals, small prickles, and dense and abundant hair. Thanks to their fragrant qualities, roses are often used to make perfume, and sometimes even feature as an ingredient in cooking. However, the flowers adorning the market at Grasse are actually Chinese roses. Many of them have been crossbred and are able to bloom more than once. Their petals are thick, and there's usually a single flower at the top of a branch. Contemporary plant taxonomy regards that the Chinese rose, rugosa rose, and multiflora rose are different species of the genus Rosa. In the West, these flowers tend to be lumped together in the single category rose. In China, however, the generic term meigui, the word for rose, is never applied to the Chinese rose and multiflora rose. For most people, perhaps the precise distinctions are not important. The beauty and fragrance of these wonderful flowers is enough. Some, however, enjoy being able to distinguish and identify them. Such people are able to remember the distinguishing features of a great many plants of the genus Rosa.
我的老师杨月季，我觉得他对植物非常敏感，但我不清楚这个东西是天生与生俱来的，还是他后天经过这么多年的工作学习也好。就比如说，放在他面前有10个植物，他看过一遍之后，他能记住每个的特点，但是我不可以。
His master is a well-known horticulturist in the field of Chinese roses. Every morning, the first thing Chinese Rose Yang does is go up into the hills with a small cloth bag. Chinese Rose Yang's real name is Yang Yi Yang. He came from northeast China to Kunming in 1998 and soon made a name for himself as a grower of Chinese roses.
就蔷薇属中国是全世界的分布中心，那我们尤其是云南，得天独厚的气候条件，就资源最多。
60% of the species of the genus Rosa can be found in China. Basically, they exist in every province in China. Over the past few years, Yang Yi Yang's work has been focused on collecting and breeding different varieties of flowers. Not only has he crossbred over 40 Chinese roses, he's also collected more than 2,000 species, especially the proto-species of the wild Chinese multiflora rose.
那有花的你就得要抓紧时间做那个申请。
哇，这个漂亮！
Nan Bei has been learning about flowers for 3 years. Basically, his life is lived according to the natural rhythms of the flowers.
花苞能不能打开？
Once a week, he comes down from the mountains.
这个对照选那个红衣骑士行不行？
红衣骑士它颜色不相近，
那选那个
玛丽娜了这类的。
收集更多的资源，从这些里面挑出最优秀的来，然后再生出最优秀的宝宝出来。他一直在坚持做育种这件事情，做很前端的事情。
But flower breeding isn't as exciting as Nan Bei imagined it would be. Every day, they need to check and make records of the growth of the Chinese roses. They also need to pay attention to details like the disease resistance and the climate adaptability. It's a slow progress that requires patience and keen observation.